Great. All right, guys. I'm going to call this meeting of the Coventry Charter Review Committee to order, and I am going to take the roll. Michael Brault.
Yeah.
Bradford Inman.
Yo.
Dorothy Jackvoni.
Here.
Michael New.
Here.
Claire Murray. I know you're there,
I can see
Claire.
her.
You want to just wave?
Sorry, I had it muted. I'm here.
No problem. Norma Smith.
Here.
Sandra Restow.
Here.
And Richard Williams.
Yeah.
All right, we have a quorum. Thank you. So let's get started with our new business. Can I have anyone approve the June 23rd, 2020 meeting minutes?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept those minutes that I read today in the email for the last couple of days. I will make a motion to accept those minutes.
We will accept that. Any second?
Second.
I'll second.
Oh, I'm sorry, who was that?
I'll second it.
Okay, Claire seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, the motion passes. Can I also get approval for the June 25th? And I'm not going to lie, I didn't see those, so I didn't read the June 25th.
I think those are, I don't want to speak for the recording secretary, but those are not, there's been a little technical issue with those, so we don't have those ready yet tonight. I expect that we'll have those available next Tuesday.
All right.
So you don't have to table it. You just move on, and we'll make sure that this is on next Tuesday's agenda.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so 4.3 is ratification of amendment charter section 5.01 to include residency preference as well as requiring town residency within 6 months to 2 years or higher.
So everybody, this is, I'm going to refer to this as the Brad Inman amendment.
Well,
Anyway, yeah. So just I just want to go over the actual document with you folks. So what we did was I worked off of the section 5.01 amendment that the council had worked on, and we the major changes or the changes that we or that you wanted in there. I'm just going to read the last two sentences. The manager must maintain residency within the town of Coventry within 6 months of appointment, which may be extended by the town council for a period not to exceed 2 years. Notwithstanding that residency of the town manager shall be governed by General Laws 45-2-15.2, the town council shall give preference to a candidate who resides in Coventry or is willing to relocate to Coventry upon being hired.
good.
So just to make sure I'm clear, what we said was move here within 6 months to 2 years. And this amendment is kind of based on the Rhode Island general law. Like, this is what we want. We have to work within accordance of Rhode Island general law 45-2. But also we give preference if you already live here or have indicated you'd move here.
Yeah, it's more than that. This is saying the manager must maintain residency without regard to the general law. I think that's what Mr. Inman wanted.
That's
is to
correct.
say that, you know, we know what the general law is. We want this person to be a Coventry resident, period. And I think that it's consistent because that general law does give does allow in the negotiation process the town council to require residency. So, and then obviously,
I thought it was the opposite of that.
no. So the general, it's because the general law is a little bit confusing and misleading. Let me work backwards as an explanation. So under contract law, two parties, as long as they're equal, can contract for any terms. So that general law basically says that if the town council wants to include a residency requirement in its negotiations with the new town manager, then that's okay. But mandatory residency requirements are not okay. The difference is if I'm negotiating with a town manager to take a position and to reside in Coventry as part of that person's employment contract, maybe what I do is I say, you know what, I'll give you $10,000 more to move to the town of Coventry, or I'll give you $10,000 more to pay for your moving expenses. Because in the law of contract, two sides can negotiate terms. So the state law that basically says you can't have a residency requirement also says, well, you can negotiate an employment contract that contains a residency requirement.
Right, yeah.
That's
Thanks,
just,
Dave. That's the way I read it too.
Yes.
Thank you.
Probably meant more for the union stuff, right, Dave?
Yeah, that's more, I mean, the purpose of the law is really more geared towards your, police, firefighter, teacher
Teacher.
type of situation, not someone at the level of a town manager.
Right.
Right.
Because you don't have individual contracts with police, fire, and teachers. You have collective bargaining agreements.
Correct. Yep. Unions.
Right. So I hope that's an explanation.
Good.
So
I
are we
appreciate
voting
it.
on the entire change or just moving to Coventry clause?
No, what I think you should do is I think you should vote on the changes that have been distributed to 5.01. That way we can send this document right to the town council. It's been approved by the commission, and let them take it up at that time.
Right. I totally agree with that. Yep.
Is that a motion, Mr. Inman?
I make a motion. We accept that.
second, Michael New, second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
That's okay.
That's why we get to vote.
I love it. It has to be this way.
So, if I'm not mistaken, by a 6-3 vote,
Right.
the motion passes.
Right.
That is correct.
David, do you need us to say who voted no? Does it matter
Um,
for the minutes?
I think we should indicate for the minutes who
Sure.
voted no, just
Wait,
in
Dorothy,
case.
Were you one of them? I couldn't tell.
We should do a roll call vote and then we
It might
know,
be
but
true.
I was a no. I was a no.
Okay, so Claire Murray was a no. Kimberly Shockley was a no. Richard Williams?
I was a yes.
Michael Brawl?
Yes.
Dorothy Giacoboni?
No.
Bradford Inman?
Yes.
Norma Smith?
Yes.
And Sandra Vestal?
Yes.
Okay.
And Michael New.
Oh, Michael New, I'm sorry.
We can't see him.
On my,
Can't see him.
I'm changing my vote now. No, I'm a yes.
okay. I was looking at all my pictures. I apologize.
It's okay.
Kim's all set. She already lives here.
That's how I read too.
Yep.
Just look at
I
this.
vote for her.
Look up here. All right, so 4.3 has been ratified. 4.4 is the ratification of amendment to Charter Section 5.03 to allow for indefinite extension of interim town manager appointment with the approval of the town council.
So 5.3, the last sentence used to say, no interim appointment shall last more than 180 days. We've struck that, and we've added, the town council shall have the right to extend the interim appointment for as long as the council shall deem necessary, which is another way of saying indefinite.
Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome.
Yeah, but yeah, right, exactly. He's stuck doing it.
He's gonna retire doing it.
There's
Exactly.
Well, he would have to accept the appointment, of course.
Yeah, well, he got another year. I know that. If he can at least stick that out.
There's no issue to just making
They
it.
won't let him retire.
David, is
Yes.
there an issue to simply saying it's indefinite? That
So here's what I think we have to be careful of. If we use the term indefinite, it will raise the question of whether or not a council appointment could ever technically end, an interim appointment. So
Yeah.
I think that what, again, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think the intention is to allow an interim appointment so long as the council wants that person to continue. Obviously, what's happened now is the council has extended Mr. Wazika's interim appointment. They obviously want him to continue in that, by continuing to extend him. And they're also at the same time looking for a permanent town manager. So I think that you have to have, excuse me, I think it would be imprudent for the council to appoint an interim manager for an indefinite period of time, because that's not really exercising the governance function.
no, I thought this seemed indefinite.
Shouldn't we make some kind of maximum then?
Or
Something?
even every 6 months we look at it, or
You could do that. The way I have currently indicated, so is the council can extend it as long as it deems necessary. So, in other words, the council could say, we're going to appoint Mr. Wazika, the interim town manager, for the next 365 days, or until a successor is appointed. I mean, that's the type of function that I would expect to be exercised, because by the council saying we're going to appoint Mr. Wazika for an indefinite period, it doesn't really, I just don't think that's an appropriate way to govern. You have to, the governing body, the council has to do something. They have to express that they want that person to continue.
Dorothy, you had something to say?
I understand what he's saying about naming an intern manager for a long period of time. Can we put something in there with the stipulation, as long as there is an active search for a manager to fill the position?
Yeah, that's why I think we should keep a check on it, like every 6 months or every year, whatever.
Every
Because
6
we
months.
gotta keep a check on it, because if not, then it could go on forever and ever and
Or
ever.
just sit back and let it go?
So like every
Right.
6 months, yeah, let's look at it and see what's happening. Are
I
we
think
looking into it? Are we really trying to find a manager? What's going on,
I think that's in place already because we just extended it.
I think so too, Mike, but I mean, I get it. They gave him a year. I know Ed probably doesn't want the year, but they gave it to him anyway.
Yeah.
Just why they search, I get that, but we should put something in place where they don't slack off on it, because I could see them forgetting about Ed in a couple months and saying he's doing a great job again, and they just don't try to
Another
find
year.
him.
They didn't forget about it. They did have an active search the entire time this has been going on. A headhunting company was hired right from the start. I think any responsible council will always do that. The problem, like in my case, they've appointed me now 5 times.
Wow. Wow.
5 different 6 months. I just had my other one, my 5th one the other day, at the
Unbelievable.
last meeting. So that's the issue. They have to keep redoing and redoing, and I think that's why like a longer period with review, or like I said, I love the idea of they have to have the active search with the company going. I think that's
They have to, yeah.
because even with one doesn't guarantee anything though.
No, obviously.
Experience.
Can I ask one other question? Is there any detriment to the person who's acting in that they're not are they a true employee of the town? Do they get all the benefits of the employee of a town?
Yes, the fact that someone is interim versus permanent doesn't change the scope of their authority. It doesn't change their compensation. Understanding that the council has the right to set the compensation for the town manager. So that doesn't mean that every interim town manager will receive the same level of compensation, but certainly the reason that there's a provision in the charter for an interim town manager, remember, this provision could also be for a short period of time. For example, a town manager is going on an extended family vacation to another country, or a town manager is going to have an extensive medical, or surgical procedure. These are the other reasons why the council would appoint an interim manager, not just because the manager has left and now we need someone to fill the shoes.
Yeah, a question. Have we tried to look at outsourcing this position? So like a JLL or a CBRE, somebody that has this kind of experience?
As far as the interim,
As far as looking for like a company to come in and help run it, or actually permanently. I mean, we outsource those type of functions, in the business sector every day. I'm sure.
the manager, because of the requirements and the responsibility, I don't think you could actually outsource that to a private company. Again, I think there'd be some legal issues because of what's involved in that.
Mhm.
So I don't believe. But again, Mr. D'Agostino is a better one to respond to that than I am.
Yeah, I mean,
Bond too, the state bond.
theoretically, you could outsource it, but you'd have to, because the town manager has a series of functions that are set by charter, and also a series of functions that are designated under various state statutes. For example, when different state statutes refer to the chief executive officer of a city or town, if you have a town manager, your CEO or chief executive officer is going to be the town manager. So because of the interplay between charter provisions and state law, you'd have to have a very comprehensive agreement with whoever was filling that role to make sure that you adequately covered the authority. There are legal issues when it comes to delegation of authority. Generally speaking, you can't delegate authority. So the town, for example, the town council is the governing body of the town. The town council cannot delegate their authority to appoint a town manager to someone else. It's just legally, it's not allowed. So if you outsource the town manager position, you just have to be careful that you're making sure that the person or the entity that is performing those manager functions, that you've properly tied the delegation of authority to that person or entity. I mean, it's possible. It's just not really an optimal situation.
Mm.
Okay, Claire, I have a question. It's okay?
Sandra, you have a
I
question?
have a question.
Okay,
I have a question.
You're next.
Tim,
Where they're talking about qualified town administrative officer, and they're saying if they had to make another change, they would have to have another person who's a qualified town administrative officer. Who would that, how many do they have of those?
So remember that and I don't mean to sound pejorative, but the qualified the qualified town administrative officer is subject to the approval of the town council. So it's the town council that makes the decision as to who is qualified to serve as an interim or acting town manager. So
Right, I understand that, but what I want to know is how many other people are there that are in the town that are qualified, that are administrative officers that could qualify? Do we have lots or a few or two or?
well, so you have all of your department heads would be administrative officers. You have your
Okay.
finance director, and treasurer. That's the same individual. I kind of include that person with the department heads, but it's
Okay.
basically your department heads. Yeah.
Senior
Okay, I
level
understand.
manager.
Thank you.
I had asked if where the job posting was last time. They said they were gonna find out. I know we had a headhunter. I was wondering where else. I know the job was posted other places for the town manager. I was wondering, did you have that information tonight? Or did you find that out?
I'm gonna defer to Ed on that. I don't know where it's posted.
The town itself did not post anywhere additional. That was what we hired the headhunting company for. I know he ran through ICMA and several other publications, as well as his own website and other associated areas like that. It was posted pretty much everywhere that you could think of to try and bring in as many people as possible. But
Through
again,
the,
it's all out of the town's hands once we hire a company to do that.
so he was responsible for all the posting.
Right. We
Okay.
did receive a few inquiries and a few applications directly to the town, and those were turned over to the headhunting company. We forwarded them to him. The town actually doesn't have anything to do. Once we hire them, that's their job to go and do all that work.
Are we out of that contract now, Ed?
It is still in play until they get a permanent town manager. We are not paying by the hour, the month, or the year, fortunately. We paid by the job.
Great. You pay them when they get you a town manager, right?
Please?
You pay them when they get you a town manager.
It was half up front, half when they get the town manager, correct?
Right. Just like a bounty.
Correct, sir.
Okay, by a show of hands, is there any other discussion about this current amendment?
My hand's not up.
Thanks, Mike. I couldn't see you.
Yeah,
You
I
look
can't
good
see you.
tonight.
Thanks.
All
I love
right.
you, man.
So we would be voting simply on the change of the town council shall have the right to extend the interim appointment for as long as the council shall deem necessary. But it seems we are not ready to vote on this yet because we'd like to add something that says,
But I think you're looking to add a 6-month review period.
Yeah, there's got to be a limit.
Yeah.
I think we want to review it. 6 months sounds good to me, Ed. Has it been
That's a long
too long
time.
to,
That sounds great to all of us, I think.
yeah.
And can we also put in there, as long as there is an active search for the manager?
Yeah, that's good, Dottie. Yep.
I will revise that, and it'll be on next Tuesday's agenda.
Thank
Thank
you.
Fantastic. Yeah, don't forget, everyone, we don't have a meeting Thursday.
Thursday. Okay. I'll cancel my plans.
Me too.
Okay, so we are going to table 4.4. Moving on to 4.5. Once again, the review of boards and commissions. Discuss necessity of certain boards and commissions. Review inactive boards and board commissions set forth in the charter. Review regular and alternate members, appropriate number, etc. Representation on boards and commissions by district, other means, limits, or appointment.
I think the commission kind of beat this up at the last meeting. I know that we were missing a few commissioners. I took the initiative to just leave it on this agenda just to make sure that everybody had their opportunity to speak their piece on it.
So just to update everybody, you know, David, would you just update, if you don't mind, on what we spoke about last Thursday, just as far as having them in the charter, keeping them active, that sort of thing?
Sure. So the last Thursday, this was discussed at length, and prior to Thursday's meeting, the town Ed, the interim town manager, provided some information that indicated that some of the committees that the town clerk had indicated as inactive or where membership had not been renewed was not a function of the fact the committee did not meet. It was a function of the fact that due to COVID, the council had not actually made the appointments. And one thing that I clarified is when the governor's executive orders allowing remote meetings first came out, the subject of what could be discussed during those remote meetings was limited to essential business only. So that would be business that's necessary to keep government moving forward. The appointment or putting people on boards and commissions, if they were not, urgently needed, that would not have qualified as important business in the meaning of the law. The governor's executive orders, when she revised the OMA and the APRA executive orders, removed that provision. But the council obviously at this time of year is primarily focused on budget issues. Those have been at the forefront. So some of the boards and commissions that show that they appear to be inactive are actually not inactive. The council hasn't gotten around to appointing members there yet. But you also have to understand, I think all of you on this commission do, that that's a process. So the council has to say, look, we're interested in getting members for the Economic Development Commission, or we're interested in filling positions on the Affordable Housing Commission. So that encourages residents to provide their resumes and request to be part of those commissions. Then the council has to take that and vet it and make appointments. So I think a lot of, and I don't want to speak entirely for the town manager, but my understanding is a lot of those boards and commissions that looked like they had been dormant are not really dormant. They just people need to be appointed to them, and the delay of appointment has really been related to COVID.
If I could say something, Dave, when you're,
Sure.
are you done? Yeah. It might not be important to state government, but it's important to us in Coventry. We want things done. We're here for Coventry. We're not here for the state of Rhode Island. We're here for Coventry. And to us, this is very important to us. And I think we need to straighten this out. I mean, whether the government thinks that we're not important right now, we feel we are. We want to take care of these things.
Right, just let the virus, everything lapse.
Can I just ask a question? And unfortunately, I missed last Thursday's meeting, and I don't have the meeting, so it may have already been
All right,
answered.
but Claire, you do all push-ups for missing the meeting. You have
Okay.
to do
Well,
push-ups.
then Kim's got to do them right beside me for the one she missed. We'll have to
Okay,
do
we'll
them
let you go.
together.
I'm in. 4
She can
push-ups.
probably do them any more than I can. Two particular ones that are in the charter. The Citizens Advisory Committee. The only thing, it was amended in 1999. The only thing I have found with the Citizens Advisory Committee was 2014, 2015, and 2016. It was 2 letters, one to Tobin at the time, and a report on the Citizens Advisory Committee regarding the taxpayer exemption and the recommendations for reviewing and maybe revising the taxpayer.
For seniors?
Pardon me?
For seniors
For
or?
seniors and veterans, just in general.
Okay.
But so the last thing I saw on that was in 2016. So does that mean that there's been no, except for that one advisory, there's been no Citizens Advisory Committee since that time?
4 years ago.
Because it is in the charter, and it says that 9 members will be appointed by the town manager, and this is the only literature that I could find. I actually typed it out. It even had a breakdown of the taxes that were lost due to the freeze and stuff. But my question more is that the only time that there's been a Citizens Advisory Committee? But then has there been none since? And the other one that I have question on is actually our Charter Review Commission, which that was amended in 1999, that every at least 5 years, a Charter Review Commission would be appointed. And I could find nothing from past Charter Review Commission. So are we the first one since this was amended in 1999?
Probably.
Blair, I can address the charter review question. So I can't speak to the lack of information, but I can tell you that there was a charter review commission back in 15 and 16 that did
Okay.
some work. And I know that because I've seen those, I've seen some of the documents on our server. I think Nick was working with the commission at that time. So I know that there was some work done at that time. I can't speak to earlier than that. When it comes to the Citizens Advisory Committee, I really would defer to the town manager because that's a manager-directed committee. But I will say something, what I think is very good about the charter. In section 1420, where the Citizens Advisory Committee is set forth, it actually provides some pretty good guidance as to what that committee does. Is the committee is supposed to provide in the community generally and in selected areas the understanding and support necessary to accomplish community goals. So apparently back when you found records, apparently the tax freeze was a hot button topic.
Right.
And you know,
But it never got presented to the town.
and they may not have finalized their work. I can't really speak to what happened then. I can tell you that now that, you know, it may be, and I don't know this, but it may be that with an interim town manager, the desire would be to have the permanent manager be able to appoint the advisory committee, give that advisory committee a focus of tasks, and then have that committee work. It may be that with the interim appointments, it just hasn't been something that's a top priority. But again, I don't want to speak for the manager.
If I may, when I came on, when I was asked to step in, that committee was not active. I was aware of it. I knew what the purpose of it was. I didn't feel it was appropriate in my case to start adding members to something like that as an interim. And I also felt when I was asked to step in that this was going to be a 3-4 month period, maybe
Obviously.
5 at the most, before they would bring somebody else on board. There were things that have not been done because I just, again, not feeling it's appropriate. Even the way I appointed the police chief, I did that completely different than has ever been done under the a permanent town manager. It just, as an interim, I think I've got different requirements and different ways I've got to do things, and I don't feel it's appropriate for me to be permanently appointing people to boards and commissions under the manager that are probably not going to, they may not be the same as the permanent manager when he comes in. He or she may not feel the same way. As I said, I never expected this to last 2+ years.
Right. And if I can just say one thing, you know, it's like and I think I said this last week, you know, every firefighter, every police officer dreams about being chief someday, you know, and I believe in promoting from within because, you know, as I was a young police officer, I dreamed of being chief someday. You know, I that was always my dream. And when they come from outside and promote from outside, it not only does the rank suffer, but like now the major goes up to chief, but then a captain goes up to major, a lieutenant moves up to captain, a sergeant moves up. So now you promote all within, everybody's happy. It's a good life, unless.
I agree with you completely, Brad, but having been there for 21 years as well, sometimes there is a need.
No, I get it.
Do that.
I get it.
And not that there was in this case.
Not in this
I thought
case.
it was appropriate that we do a nationwide search for possible candidates. I wanted it to cast the widest net. I wanted it because,
you know, and I get that, but
Yep.
I also take.
but as was done, it was a local.
And right, but I get that the national search and you got to find the best candidate. But I also believe that if you know you go to the department where you don't have a dream of being chief, it kind of takes away from the motive, you know, the excitement of being with that department. So I think
Brad, I agree with you completely on that. And I got to tell you,
the right thing.
The next best thing to actually being the chief, I got a chance to appoint one and swear him in, and that was the coolest thing I've done.
That had to feel incredible.
It
That had
was
to feel
great.
incredible. Congratulations.
But that's why on the citizens subcommittee, I
Right.
just didn't feel it appropriate as the interim to be appointing all those people in an inactive board that was inactive when I got there.
Okay, and so we can get back on the agenda.
Yep.
Just one more question regarding the Charter Review Commission. There's a lot left to go through. There's been a lot of time spent on this town manager thing, which the town already had a resolution on, but I'm just curious. I know we have, what, maybe three more meetings? 4? 3?
We can have as many as we want, can't we? I mean, if we don't finish, we can have more, right?
Well, we're
Trying to finish.
my point is, we need to get it to the town council. I think, Dave, you said by around July 20th?
That's
Yes.
what we're shooting for.
So
yeah.
So my question is, at that point, are we done? This is normally something that takes about 6 months, usually. My
Yes.
question is, we obviously, or I don't think, unless we really stay on topic and on agenda, that we're going to get through everything by the 20th in 3 more meetings. So at that point, does this commission end, or does it continue on to go through the charter again and, I don't know, affect changes for next year? Or is it done when we get as far as we can get?
So if
That's
you
not
bear
a
with
fair
me-
question. I'm sorry. I'm just wondering.
And I'm looking at the provisions in the charter, because it's my understanding that your work will be done when when you submit your drafts to the council.
Okay, so
that-
we get as far as we get, and that's it.
That's correct. That does not mean that a new commission cannot be selected. If you bear with me, I'm going through the charter to find the right provision. I don't want to misquote something.
Okay.
Yeah, I would hope the next commission would get more time.
Yeah. So it's controlled by section 1520 of the charter. The town council shall, within 2 years after adoption and every 5th year thereafter, or more often, if it's deemed necessary, appoint a committee. So the short answer is, I think the work of this particular charter commission in this truncated time is going to be done when we submit proposals to the council. That does not mean, however, that the council couldn't either continue this commission or go out immediately for the appointment of a new commission.
Okay. Thank you. That
You're
answers
welcome.
my question.
Just going back, just because, the fact that the Citizens Advisory Committee is in the charter, and seems like a relatively important committee, is there a reason that our committees that are this important don't say that there should be like people from every district? At least one from each of the 5 districts. It does seem to have a committee like this and not be representing the entire town.
That's why I should have 2 councils at large.
We're going back to that too.
Okay, thank you, Kim.
And I'm just wondering, I know we're trying to move on and get things done, like Claire was saying. Just something that occurs to me when they decide something like our committee right here, or the Citizens Advisory.
I think that if I can just be so bold as to suggest this, I think the Citizens Advisory Committee is very important. But I also think that what drives the Citizens Advisory Committee is a plan for the betterment of the community that's embraced by or started by the town manager or from the council. In other words, the Citizens Advisory Committee has a very well-defined role when you look at the charter, but the topics that the Citizens Advisory Committee is to undertake, those are really going to be set by either the council or the manager. And I think more importantly, the manager, because this committee is appointed by the manager. So I would think that in the future, if there are issues of community concern, such as tax freeze, that's obviously a very hot topic. A Citizens Advisory Committee would undertake that. Perhaps expansion of the sewer system, for example, might be a topic to be undertaken by the Citizens Advisory Committee. But that has to be directed by the manager who sets up the committee. So it's a two-step process. The first, it's sort of like the first step is the step that we don't have yet. A manager with a vision to make Coventry better or to improve certain aspects of the town.
Also, it determines who thinks what is better and what isn't better. It's not all one way. There's different things that are better for some people that aren't better for other people.
I agree, and I think
that's what the advisory should do.
That's right, but the advisory, and I agree with you, that's what I'm saying. I think the advisory committee has to be given a subject or topic to then go and conduct its work. So for example, I think the tax freeze that Claire referenced that was discussed many years ago, that's a perfect example of a topic that you'll find people on both sides of that topic with lots of information, lots of passion, and then maybe there can be some common ground found, and then that committee would report back to the council either yes, this can't be done, or we have to make significant changes, or we can't make major change, but here's the small areas where we can change. So I think that the Citizens Advisory Committee has to be given a task and given a topic to then go work on.
Okay, I hadn't understood it that way. All right. Is there any other discussion we have about the boards and commissions? The only other thing I want to point out to Claire and Dorothy, who weren't here, we talked a lot about trying to put committees out in front of people more, whether hanging up signs at the town hall, putting it on the Facebook page, just making it so we're asking citizens to be on them, not expecting them to go to the website to look to see what committees need members. So that's just another thing that we've discussed, not most likely something that will go in the charter, but just something for the town to work on, making sure that our citizens know what we're looking for and we have a better likelihood of getting people to sign up.
Good idea.
Any other discussion about the review of boards and commissions? I'm not sure we've discussed anything that is vote.
I think we all agree that we got to work on these things. I mean, we got to find out what's active, what's not active still, and what boards, you know, and how we get on these boards, how people don't get on these boards. And I know a lot goes down to the town manager, but we've got so many boards in this town that are doing absolutely nothing that probably could help this town, you know, because I know I will volunteer, and I know probably everybody here would volunteer on a board. You know, you got volunteers right here. And as you know,
let me interject. If you go into town hall, right over at the secretary's office to the town manager's office, every application for every board sits there. And that's why they're all out there to try to get people to do it. So they are advertised, they were there.
But what if people sign up? Are they going to hear anything if they sign up?
They most certainly will. It goes to the clerk's office, and from there, it will. They will be brought in for an interview. If there are openings, if they're not, they will be held until there are openings. That's that's the normal process.
Do you know what the longest an opening has been there though? Like if they say someone signs up, say Richard goes signs up for a board. Is he going to find out within 6 months, a year, 2 years that he's active on that board? Or
I mean, some of these boards, some of the positions on the board are 5 years. Others are 3, some are 2. It actually varies depending on which board or commission it is. on how long it would wait until there was an opening.
But
All right.
I'm not sure we can change that with this committee. I think it's something that as citizens, we're all gonna have to start working on even after this is completed. Dorothy, did you have a question?
I was wondering, Brad brought up a good point. Why not have these reviewed every 3 months, or do something where they can, or every quarter, or 5 times, or get some volunteers to actually sit down and see where those boards and commissions are and what's needed, and are they inactive for a reason? Is there something we can do with them? So it's almost like getting a committee to watch over the committee.
Yeah, I know
Anyway.
people like me and you, Dorothy, would watch. We would love to volunteer to help out with
Right.
this.
So
Yeah,
maybe
we
we
need-
could get something where we can, get people to review them every so many months, just to see what's going on.
All right, Michael, did you have a question?
Well, it just seems like we can't even get the top person in 2 years, so, you know.
It's easier to hire lower down.
Yeah, well, when it's free.
Well, I'm with you,
Gotta
Mike.
start somewhere.
All right, anyone else have any discussion by show of hands, or Michael knew you were allowed to speak?
Oh, is he?
Yes, no hand.
Okay,
He
anyone
looks
else?
awesome tonight.
Better get a better cable company.
No, it's my computer.
All right, so I think we're gonna move past 4.5 with the idea that it's kind of on people in this group right now to see how we can move forward with this over time. Just making sure that we're keeping an eye on it, letting our friends and neighbors know that there are committees if they're. So without vote, moving on to 4.6. Discussion of qualifications for town council candidacy, allowing state or other employment by town council candidate and member. David, I believe that this is already worked out. There had been,
Not to interrupt, but isn't there a state law saying they can?
Yes, there is.
that's where we're
And
heading, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
this is, so this is much like the issue with the residency. There's a state statute, it was in the packet that was sent to everybody earlier this evening. It's General Laws 17-1-5.1. And it basically says that municipal employees may hold elective office, and state employees can hold elective public office as long as it's not in the city or town where he or she is employed.
Right.
But this is, and it also, much like the residency statute, it also declares null and void any prohibition in a town charter that would otherwise prevent this. So as you read our town charter, there is a provision that says that you can't hold, you can't be a municipal or state employee and hold elective office. That section has been superseded by this state law. I wanted everyone to be aware of the state law, just so you'd, and to have it so you could, refer to it.
Right.
for anyone,
I'm very familiar with that law. It's been around forever, and I get it. If you work for the town, you can run for the state. But if you work for the state, you can't run for the state. But if you work for the town, you can't run for the town. So town can run for state, state can run for town. That's it. End of deal.
should we take 3.03? Should we take the part out where it says that the state, you can't work for the state of Rhode Island or the government of the United States?
It could be removed if that's what the committee wants to do. I think that,
I think just go with state law, on that.
Yeah.
Just go with state law because we're abiding by it, and I get it. And let's just keep it like that instead of making our own. No?
well, yeah, state law supersedes the charter section anyway. So we could remove that, we could repeal that charter section. That's something that the commission can certainly do if you'd like to do that, which would merely be a strike through on everything that's in
Well,
that section.
I hate to do anything that takes away from our power. Trust me, nothing to take away from our power. But you know, I get the law. I get
We'll have
why
nothing left.
it's been there. I understand it, but I don't want to mess with what we got going on because I dig it.
Maybe we could put something in parentheses after it about the state law and it supersedes.
Yeah, sure.
Still have ours intact?
The only reason I say is because like I personally, having read this in the charter, wasn't going to run because I work for the state of Rhode Island.
Yeah, but I get that, and you can.
I know, but I wasn't going to look further to see if something supersedes what I read in our charter.
Oh,
Right, and I don't want to mess with our charter, but I don't want to, you know, mess with it either.
So
we're
there's a couple of ways that offhand that I can think of to address this. I could rewrite section 503 to recognize this particular state statute. We could redline section 5.03. If the commission would like, I can put a couple of samples up for consideration for next Tuesday, and then you can vote on whichever one you like better.
Why don't we just leave it the way it is, though?
Or you could do that.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree. Leave it the way it is.
Just leave it the way it is. Let's not change anything.
Change the charter, the less likely for it to pass.
Thank you, Richard.
That's
Excellent.
all I gotta
idea.
say. The more changes, the less likely, because you're gonna offend somebody.
No, I
Right.
agree. I'm just saying that was my,
I understand
not my hill.
you don't say a word, Kimberly. We understand. But the thing is, I agree with Richard. Why change anything?
And
That is fine. If people don't want to change it, it is superseded by a state law. So,
Yeah, change it.
what?
Nope,
don't change it.
don't change it. I'm saying, go ahead, do what they want to do. If someone else has a different opinion, go ahead.
Does anyone else have any opinion on it? Because it is something that's on our agenda. All right. Then for 4.6, I don't believe there's anything to vote on. We're just going to take a look at it. So that's fine. 4.7 is an update on General Assembly enabling legislation for addressing financial town meeting contingencies and authority for council to hold appropriation power.
So this is actually moot at this time because of the vote the council took on Saturday to authorize the budget and the financial town meeting and whatnot. I sort of kept this on the agenda, not knowing how the vote on Saturday would turn out. And if things didn't go the way they did, then the commission may want to revisit this because it might have been a hot topic at that time. So that's why I kept that or suggested to keep that on the agenda for tonight.
You thought they'd still be continued like we are, Dave, right?
Correct.
Okay. I got no problem with that.
Yeah, so I don't think there's anything that you really need to discuss about 4.7.
Right, because we're still having the town financial meeting, right?
Correct.
That's what we all want, I think. I mean, that's
Yes.
what I want. I think most of the people, Richard wants that. I know.
Yes, definitely.
What I
Especially
don't understand is they voted already. Then having the
No.
financial town meeting.
We had discussed this a few weeks back before it had even been pointed out that the state was possibly going to make an overarching decision for the year. And we had just discussed the idea of giving the appropriation power to the town council ongoing.
Yeah, that's correct. The state statute was passed. It was signed by the governor this year, and for any year in which there is a national or a local emergency, there will be a provision in state law that those communities that have financial town meetings, the council could take the initiative to just make an appropriation and order a levy, but it has to be tied to an emergency. I can tell you that's not what this council in Coventry has decided to do. They've decided to have the regular financial town meeting process play out, and you'll have the financial town meeting virtually on July 14th. followed 2 days later by an all-day referendum on July 16th.
At the high school?
Virtual.
It's
Virtual.
virtual, Brad.
I knew that. I don't know why I even asked
On
that.
your computer.
You're right.
For the first time in 16 years, I do not have 2 days worth of setup.
So this was just something that you were keeping on here then for reference. I think it would be something worth discussing. I know, I'm pretty sure the town of North Kingstown doesn't, the citizens don't vote on the budget.
Right. There are a number of towns that do different things, and almost all of your cities, it's the council that holds the appropriation power.
Right. So you didn't put on the, you didn't put on anything about the members at large, Dave.
I couldn't get it on this agenda. It'll be on, it would have been on Thursday's agenda, but we're not meeting Thursday, so it'll be on next Tuesday.
Okay,
Well,
so
what's Thursday?
Yeah, what is Thursday?
I think we had decided originally that
Third.
right before 4th of July, we were calling it.
That's right.
We decided that a while, at the beginning when we were planning meetings.
But everything's canceled.
Is there any way we can sneak in a few extra meetings before the 27th, is it? To be thorough?
I don't think we have to finish on that date. We're
We have
trying
have
to.
something to the council. We can keep going after that, right, Dave? We have to have.
Yeah,
We're trying to finish, Dottie, but I don't think we have to.
Yeah. Remember the whole issue this year with this compressed time frame is that the council has to review what you submit. So the council needs to look at it. They're going to use either July 20th and or July 27th to conduct their review, because on August 4th, the ballot has to be submitted to the state. So we have a rather short time frame. Again, you know, this process would have played out differently in a different set of circumstances.
I will say though, if anyone has something that we've never discussed that you had thought was very important, I would get it to Dave and I over the next couple of days so it can go on the agenda for the 7th. And even if it's a really long meeting on the 14th or we have to throw in another meeting, we'll get to discuss, you know, some of us
Yes.
had active reason for wanting to be on this committee, something we really wanted to change. And I would just recommend getting it to us by Thursday.
Yeah.
Dave, so we can get it out Friday at the latest, but we want to get the
Yes.
agenda out Friday. And
I know that early on I had a couple of members of the public, people who were not on the commission, email me with some suggestions. We put everything on the agenda that had been forwarded as a suggestion point. And I know, you know, it's kind of difficult. I think it's somewhat of a double-edged sword, as Richard pointed out. The more potential changes, maybe the less likely people are to vote in favor of them. But, you know, your job as commissioners is to make proposals. So.
all right, so that's the end of our agenda. So Ed, if you could open up the phones for public comment.
I will do that, Madam Chair. And I have one attendee that's looking to ask a question, and that would be a Mrs. Dixon. I'm bringing her in now.
For Kim?
And you are muted, just so you know. I think on your own end.
And please unmute your, there you go.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to correct one misconception. The town council did not vote to have a town financial meeting and to have a referendum. It is in our charter, and we decided to just follow our charter. We had the option of voting to not have it, but we knew that the citizens wanted to be able to go to a town financial meeting and to vote in a referendum. So we did not need to take any action. We were allowed to, but Our charter said we could have a town financial meeting and a referendum, and we decided to just go for it. So I heard that with the town council voted Saturday, we didn't get to vote, and we're going along with what the charter recommends. The other thing is that when I was on the charter review in 2012, we had many, many proposals. And what we actually did was bundle some of our proposals that were very similar, so that we actually had, I think, 4 items on the ballot, but each of the items actually did have several proposals that were similar in nature. That is a little risky because we're not sure if someone might not like one of the proposals in the bundle and would vote it down, but we did bundle proposals because we had lots of recommendations. We were very fortunate that all of the proposals that we submitted to the town council were approved, and every single one was approved by the voters in that particular year when they went to the polls in November. The other thing that I just want to mention to you, just a little clarification. When the town council appointed the Charter Review Commission, we gave it a time limit because we knew that you would need to give us recommendations so that you could have your recommendations have time to be approved by the town council and then to be on the ballot. If we had given you an open-ended item, then we might not have been able to get your recommendations on the ballot, and we wanted that to happen. After November, we certainly can appoint another Charter Review Commission, but any recommendations would then be on a ballot the following November, which would be 2021. And then I also want to mention, just for your interest, is that we tried very, very hard to make sure that there was representation on the commission from every single district. And we had a very difficult time getting people to apply. And actually, 3 of you who are sitting there are people who I personally approached and asked if you would apply to be on the commission. So 3 of you actually are from District 1. It wasn't our intention to load it with one district or another, but it just so happened that because we had so few people apply, and I was out there trying to find people, you got 3 people from District 1. But our intention was to have equal representation from all of the districts. We just did not have enough people from each district apply. So I just wanted to mention that, but we did try very hard to have equal representation from the districts. And I appreciate all the people who are serving on this commission. When I was on it, it was very challenging and very exciting to be on it. It's a real way to enact change for our community and for our government. So thank you.
Ms. Dixon, which community district's not representative, do you know?
I think we have some in every single district, but one district only had, I think, 1 person apply. So, we have a little bit of a problem. We'd like to have representation from every district, but it doesn't always happen.
All right.
But I was out there. Our president asked many, many times to each council person, go out and find people in your district and, encourage them to apply. And I think you 3 of you know that I did do that and I approached you. But we got people at the last minute, so that's why we didn't get started very early. And then, of course, we had COVID. But we had made an attempt since last October, starting to talk about it. In November, we made a strong effort to get people to apply. But some of you actually didn't apply till around the January timeframe. And that's when we finally got enough people. And at that point, we actually had 11 people apply. We were looking for 9. We couldn't even get 9. And then all of a sudden, we got 11 people. So we interviewed people. We interviewed everyone who could come in. So all the council members could meet you. Thank you. Any other questions?
We can't see you, though.
That's very good, because I'm dressed in, I don't know, not too.
You don't know.
My dress not combed or anything. But I'm listening to all the meetings.
Yeah.
Thanks, Anne. Anyone else from the town?
At this point, we have no other people who wish to speak, Madam Chair.
All right. I will say there are 4 people who aren't on this commission, though, who are listening, and I think that's more than we ever would have gotten in person.
Yeah, my wife's one of them. It doesn't count.
So I want to know, who are these other people that were asked and decided not to? I mean, I had to beg to get on this commission. I had to beg. I didn't even know what was going on. I asked if they were ever meeting again, and then I begged to get on it. I mean, wow. Are we so wrong in this town? I mean, you got 3 from one district, and that's cool because you're active people. You must be the same people that are active in everything, because I know how organizations are. It's always the same people that are active, like me. But like, I had to find out by accident and beg to get on this commission. So that's kind of messed up. You know, I mean, I don't know. In term limits, I don't think they can put a term limit on. I don't think they can sit there and say, we're done on this day. They put us here to do a job. Let's do our job and then walk away. I don't think no one has a problem with that. Let's do our job first before they appoint a new commission to sit there and correct what we've done. Because you know what?
Possible, Brad? It's
Worse than us doing this here and have people just vote it out and neglect it and say, everything we did means nothing. All right, that's it. Let's get a whole new commission in here and let's vote new stuff in. You know,
Right,
that would
like
frustrate.
like Ann just said, it was trouble already getting people here now. Imagine the next time.
Right, but I got it. But the thing is,
Brad,
I didn't know about it.
Brad, just
Yes, I'm sorry, Kim.
let's just get as much as we can completed in time to get on this ballot. So that
I agree with that.
was worth.
But how can they tell us to end?
Doesn't have to, but let's.
You don't
get-
have to end. And the thing is, she's saying now that 3 people came from one district. I had to beg to get on this thing. How come other people don't find out about this? Why are some people finding out?
But it was asked. It was asked at every town council meeting. It was brought up. It truly was. I was there. They were asking since.
So if I go back to every town council meeting, Claire, you're telling me that at every single town council meeting they asked for this.
Maybe it wasn't at every.
Okay, then don't say that, Claire. Don't say that. Don't say something
So
you can't back
listen,
up.
commissioners,
But it was mentioned.
the town manager just said, we have to be, we're
be
straying
focused.
into a discussion that isn't on the agenda.
Right, let's be focused. Well, we had a question from the audience, and I want to know what the audience is, MO is. That's all I want to know. I mean, time limits? They're trying to shut us up already because we made some remarks. They're trying to shut us up. That's all.
Claire, can I clarify that? Can I clarify that?
Go ahead, Sandra.
Ann Dixon just told us that we were gonna, I mean, if we started in December, that was fine, but we had a time limit to put together everything and present it to the council.
Right, but
She said
does
we'd have
Ann
another
Dixon
one in
run us?
December.
Does Ann Dixon run us?
Wait a
Claire,
minute,
Town
Brad.
council.
Wait a
I
minute.
think you're.
does
agreeing
Ann
with us.
Dixon run us?
No,
Ann Dixon
let's-
didn't tell me I had to stop at a certain time.
Brad,
Here's the issue. The issue is that the ballot has to be set by August 4th. So
Right,
whatever
I
you-
get that. So what,
Right.
you know, but we're cramming. It's like the legislators at the State House trying to pass bills at the last second.
And they don't even read
things
them.
thrown through at the last second. You know, this is what I'm just telling you what I feel like. I feel like something's being crammed down my throat now. I feel like I gotta hurry up and make decisions on shit right away. I'm sorry, but we'll make decisions on stuff right away to take care of this. I feel like I'm being crammed down my throat, and I knew nothing of this. What's going on? And I apologize. I'm sorry.
Brad, can I just say this?
Yes, Claire, you can.
Some of this is stuff that you really feel strongly about with the town manager, term limits, those kinds of things that's already been.
That's not all I feel strongly about.
No,
Claire.
I
I feel strongly about the town of Coventry. I feel very strongly about the town I grew up in, that my father did, that my grandfather's father, and so on grew up in. I feel strongly. And you know what? I love everybody that moves to Coventry. There's people that move here, they can enjoy Coventry too. Coventry's a great place, and that's what I care about, Claire. So go ahead.
I understand that, and I respect your passion. All I'm trying to say is that these things
Thank
that we've discussed that are important, right now. Not that everything else isn't, but these are the things that won't get on the ballot. The term limits, these things that you want about the town manager. You need to understand that if we don't get
I
this,
don't forget
can
the
you
town
let-
manager. Forget the
can you
town
just
manager.
respect me
Forget
enough
that.
to let me finish? And
I'm
then
sorry,
you
Claire.
can
Go
yell at
ahead.
me. You can yell
You
at
can
me all.
finish.
You can all yell at me all you want. Just let me.
I'm not yelling at you, Claire. I'm just the opposite. I think you're passionate like me, Claire. I
just-
respect you. I'm not yelling at you.
I just want to
Hey,
finish.
eat,
what I'm
Claire.
trying
Finish.
Brad, please just let Claire finish her.
I am.
full
I'm trying to let her
thought.
finish.
Full thought. Thank you.
These things that we have decided already with the term limits, the town manager thing that you feel so strongly about, if that is not given to I know you're dying to speak, please, just, if these things are not given to the town council, they won't get on the ballot for this year. It will have to wait until a whole next year. And if that's what you're okay with, if you're willing to wait and not have any of this stuff go on the ballot for this year, then you can continue into next year. But the point that Ann Dixon, she's not dictating. What she's saying is, if we don't get this stuff on the ballot or to the town council to put out for the voters to vote on, there will be no vote on it for this year. That's all I'm trying to say.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I think public comment is over, and I am going to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I second.
I make a motion. Okay.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Nice fourth,
Night.
everyone.
Hey,
And I
Thank you,
just
Claire.
don't think
I'm
we
just
can
kidding.
discuss it
You're
any
welcome. Good night, everybody.
rules.
Happy 4th of July.